Here we go then. Today we have Super GT cars at Suzuka in Daily Race C on Gran Turismo Sport. I'll be driving the Nissan GTR. And these Group 2 cars are probably my favourite to drive on the whole game. Back in the days of GT5, maybe not this one, but the previous version of this Nissan GTR in the Super GT class was my favourite one to race when I first got into online racing. So it's great to race it here today. So on the start then, burning as much fuel as possible. We won't run out of fuel during this race, and burning as much as we can early on before the start of the race means that we'll be a little bit lighter towards the end, which helps with tyre wear and lap times. We did have a Group 2 race in the FIA Nations Cup recently, which was a fuel saving race, and I have to say I much prefer it when you can rev it out, push it to its limit and not have to worry about saving the fuel. So really enjoying this Daily Race C this week. So then we're starting in 5th place. You can see it's all looking pretty tidy through the first couple of corners and through the S's. I've been doing this race a couple of times, and one of the things you might notice is I have switched from the cockpit view to the traditional Gran Turismo view. I think it's also maybe called the bumper view or something similar to that. And there's a couple of reasons I've done this. So the first one is testing it out in comparison to the cockpit view. I am quicker. After about half an hour of driving with this view in the time trial for this particular race, I think I improved my lap time by about 2.5–3 tenths, which doesn't sound like a lot, but if I'd improved my lap for this race by another 2 tenths, it would put me on pole. So it does make a difference when you get in the races. Obviously the main reason it makes you quicker is you can see more of the track. You know, compared to the normal cockpit view, which you're very limited with what you can see. Obviously, if you were driving a real car, you have the ability to move your head, look around, see different things. Where when you're stuck with the cockpit view on the game, you can't even see out your windows. So this view gives you a better field of view. I also find that the steering wheel animation with the cockpit view is a little bit off-putting. Obviously I've got a steering wheel in front of me, so the way I see it is with this view my TV effectively becomes the windscreen, and the cockpit is the surroundings I have. So the steering wheel in front of me, obviously the pedals at my feet, and everything else that goes with it, and then this view is me looking at the windscreen effectively. And you can see here I've made a little bit of a mistake, but with this view I'm able to save it, and sometimes with those sort of errors using the cockpit view, the steering wheel can be a bit of a distraction, and saving a slide or some oversteer, it just becomes that little bit harder due to being able to see as much, and also those steering wheel input animations. So I'm definitely faster, I'm more consistent with this view, and I can also save some mistakes. I wasn't planning on ever switching to this view. I was enjoying using the cockpit view, but I've got to a point where in order to be more competitive, it's something I had to do really, so that's why I've done it. As you see there, the car in front goes very deep into the hairpin, and he gets a bit of wheel spin coming out, and I've just managed to pop it up the outside as he's struggling with traction there. So up into 4th place, good start to the race, onto lap 3. Hopefully we can move further up. I recognise a few of these guys I'm racing against from a few of the previous races, and I know that I've got about the same race pace as them. So obviously that mistake on the previous lap has dropped me around 2 seconds or so behind the leading 3. So we're just going to try and get our head down and see if we can bridge that gap. So forwarding it on now. You can see the lap time, or the time to the car in front is slowly going down. So up through the S's onto lap 4. And we'll play it here. So now I've got the gap within a second. So I've managed to bridge that gap very well, and we're still in the race. So although fuel's not an issue in this race, tyre wear is. You can see the tyre wear indicator just down on the bottom left to the right of the overall timer. There's 2 strategies you can do really. The one that most people do is pit on lap 5, so you do 5 laps on one set of tyres, 5 laps on the other. Because you don't need to refuel, you can get an undercut if you pit a lap earlier. So if there was a car in front of me and I wanted to try and pass him through the pit stop, I could pit a lap earlier, come out on fresher tyres, and using those fresh tyres, as you can see that car goes very slowly through there, but I can't quite get past. Using those fresher tyres, put in a fast lap so that when the other car pits you will be ahead. The downside to that is towards the end of the race you will have older tyres, so it puts you in a position where you may be under pressure from the car behind. Also, if you pit earlier and the cars behind you haven't pitted, there's a chance you could end up in traffic. So it's one of those ones that in certain situations it can pay off quite well, but in the majority of races you're going to be wanting to pit on lap 5, which is what everyone's going for here, I think, bar one car, I think he was in 6th place, who decided to pit a lap early. So it's still fairly close to 2nd and 3rd place, but you can see 1st has now started to build a bit of a gap to the rest of us. Unfortunately it's very hard to overtake here, especially in these cars, because of the dirty air given off by the high downforce. It's hard to follow closely, so especially through the corners you won't have as much grip following someone as if you were in clean air. Obviously you get the advantage of the slipstream on the straight, but it is very hard to follow directly behind someone. So the main passing opportunity is into the chicane at the end of the back straight. Again, you need to be very close, and it's easy to defend as well, so you can see 2nd place there just sticking to the right, and 3rd place can't really do anything about it. But 2nd goes deep, he's gone off, and the other guys end up with a penalty. He's decided not to pit, so I've gone into the pits. So although he's got a penalty, even if he didn't, I would still come out ahead of him due to the fresher tyres. So I'm not sure why he decided to carry on there. It's not really the best thing to do in my opinion. So I come out of the pits in 3rd place, and the other guy who was in 1st place also pitted. We forward it here now, but he's got held behind the guy who didn't pit. So as we speed it up here and we're catching them up, he's getting held up, which is very good for me, because it means I can start to bridge the gap. You can see the guy with the penalty served his penalty, and actually it's taken a big chunk of time from him, so I've been able to get past there and up into 2nd place. So it's looking like it could be quite a good result from this point. The gap is around about 4 seconds, so 4 laps to go, 2nd a lap. It's not really something that is going to be possible, but as long as I don't make mistakes, anything can happen. So I forward it here as we try to gain as much time as we can. The gap goes out a little bit and then it comes back in a bit, and as we go through the chicane on that lap there, I noticed that he picked up a half-second penalty, so he must have cut the chicane just a little bit too much, and that means that I am able to gain a bit more time on him. So you can see it's now 2.5 seconds, the gap. So 2 laps, still a possibility I can close that gap. It's going to be very, very hard, and I've got to really put some good laps in, which I'm not particularly doing actually. Looking to the lap times on the right, the best is a 1:49.9. The last lap was a 50.3, so not actually the best race I've driven in terms of time. One of the previous races, most of the laps were in the mid to high 49s throughout the race, so not the fastest race I've driven, but we haven't made too many errors, and we are still in the race. As you can see, first place there, he gets on the grass and a little spin, he goes out, so I can drive straight through and take first place. So just a lap and a half to go. I've ended up in first place with a bit of luck. So all we need to do now is not make any errors, not make any silly mistakes, keep it all together, keep it nice and smooth, and hopefully bring home the victory. So sometimes you get terrible luck in these daily races, but very occasionally the luck works with you and you end up in a good position due to someone else's bad luck, which is what's happened here, and I am very happy that it has, because I haven't won a race for quite a while. So yeah, really pleased with, you know, especially moving up from 5th place in a race that is pretty hard to overtake. So it just shows you, you know, don't make errors, don't make mistakes, put in decent lap times and you can get a good result. As we come over, cross the line, flash the lights and take first place. So total time there was a 18:38. Yeah, so I think my best one that I've done over the last few days was 18, maybe 32, 33, something like that. So and I think I came maybe 3rd or 4th in that race. So not the fastest I've done it, but good enough to take the win, and I can't complain too much about that.